Speech off.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So I'm here to do a book review for In This Moment by Gabrielle Meyer. Keep in mind this is a sequel, so there will be spoilers to book 1 and possibly book 2, just because I need to gush about this book freely, okay? So if you haven't read it, maybe don't watch this. Does that miss the point of a book review? I don't know. But like I said, I want to freely gush about this book. So, I will try to be as spoiler-free as possible. I'll read the description for this one. Maggie inherited a gift from her time-crossing parents that allowed her to live 3 separate lives in 1861, 1941, and 2001. Each night, she goes to sleep in one time period and wakes up in another. Until, that is, she turns 21, when she will have to forfeit 2 of those lives, and everyone she knows in them forever. In 1861, Maggie is the daughter of an influential senator at the outbreak of the Civil War, navigating a capital full of Southern spies and wounded soldiers. In 1941, she is a Navy nurse grappling with her knowledge of the future when she is asked to join a hospital ship being sent to Pearl Harbor. And in 2001, she's a brilliant young medical student fulfilling her dream of becoming a surgeon, yet unable to use her modern skills in her other paths. While Maggie has sworn off romance until she makes her final choice, an intriguing man tugs at her heart in each era. The mysterious British gentleman, the prickly, demanding doctor, the charming young congressman. She's drawn to each man in different ways, only complicating the impossible decision she must make, which looms ever closer. With so much on the line, how can Maggie choose just one life to keep and the rest to lose? So, yeah, basically, this book is about Maggie, who's Libby's daughter from the previous book. Libby was the time crosser from When the Day Comes, the first book. And Libby only juggled 2 time periods. I think it was 1770, wasn't it 1770 something? 1774? And 1914. I know that for sure, because it was like the beginning of World War I, her other time period. And I have to say that, okay, I'm not a huge romance person, so I actually liked When the Day Comes better, but there were some things about this book that I liked as well. I gave both books 5 stars, so, you know, it's not like I hated this book. I mean, I'm literally gushing about it. But I liked the high stakes in book 1 better, because in book 2, there really isn't, like, her choices don't suck in book 2, the way they kind of do in book 1. In book 1, it's like one time period is terrible. We have Mother Wells, like, it's obvious you should be in any time period where she doesn't exist. So naturally, you pick the 1700s, right? And then, well, you know, stuff happens and you think all is lost, and she has to pick the path she doesn't want to pick, and so you have those stakes. Like, that kept me going in that book. It wasn't all about the romance like it is in this book. In this book, it's like 3 different men that kind of, are her well, it's not just the men that are her deciding factors, it's her lives too. But yeah, it's like a lot about the romance and about which guy she's going to pick. And like everybody else, I obviously have my opinions on which guy she should pick. I did not like Prickly Doctor. I do not like curmudgeonly, I don't like enemies to lovers, and that was that trope. And so, you know, if you make a bad impression, generally I don't like you again. Like, I rarely change my mind after my first impression in a book character or a movie character. So, like, enemies to lovers, I do not like that trope. So, I was not a fan of Prickly Doctor. But I did like the other 2 until one point when one of them kind of sucked. And then it was just one left. And, you know, for me, the choice was obvious. So that's kind of what kept me going, like wondering who she was going to pick. And I was like, if you pick this other one, I will be so mad at you. Thankfully, she picked the one that I hoped she would pick, but, you know, yeah, it was just, the stakes were less high. I think she would have been happy in any of those time periods, honestly, in the end. But the other thing that kind of made it a little bit different than the first book is that I didn't really get attached to anyone in 1941 or 2001. In the first book, I got very attached to her family in the 1700s, so I was very sad when she ultimately kind of had to not choose that time period for reasons I won't mention. I'm really trying hard not to spoil things, but it was like mourning for me when she had to forfeit that path. But in this book, like, I genuinely did not care who she left behind in the other two paths. Because there just wasn't, it was so romance focused that I didn't even really get attached to anyone in the paths that much. Like the families in her paths. We barely saw Libby from 1941 because she was off nursing. We saw her for like a couple of brief appearances, and that was nice, but we didn't really get to see much of her life there so that I could like mourn it. So the only time period that I got attached to was thankfully the time period she chose. I don't know. That being said, I did enjoy the book. I mean, there were lots of aspects that I really loved too. I mean, I love the Civil War time a lot. And the other time periods were exciting too. I mean, I was not expecting some of the twists that happened in those time periods. The situation she found herself in, like the dangerous situations in all three time periods were wow. I mean, yikes. And I also kind of love that she confided in people in a way that Libby didn't. I mean, she had people that she told about being a time crosser who weren't time crossers themselves. Like, and when the day comes, they didn't tell anyone. So it was just like their secret. But I kind of enjoyed that she was able to tell people in this time period, in her time periods now, and they believed her. And she was able to kind of talk about her decisions with all these different people. And it kind of got me to thinking that I sort of wish that we weren't just in that year before she turns 21. It would be so interesting to kind of see this time crossing experience from babyhood on. Like, maybe from the perspective of a parent of a kid who time crosses. Like, when do they start talking about their time crossing parents? And, like, let's say in the case of Mother Wells, like, did the baby come back, baby Libby, like, come back fussy and miserable the next day after being with her? Like, what in the world was that like? Like, just, I have so many questions that I wish that they would, like, make a childhood of this. Like, a book that doesn't just hinge on her decision. Like, what is this like? Gabrielle Meyer, will you watch this video and write something like this? I don't know. Just because she told one of her parents in one of her time periods, I'm not going to say which one, and he was like, I actually kind of believe you because you used to talk all this craziness about flying machines and, you know. And so it made me curious to know, like, what in the world is that like? I mean, he does say that at some point she stopped talking about it, but jeez. It must be weird. Especially in, like, other time periods where having an imagination probably isn't appropriate and you'd be considered, like, a witch or something. I don't know. I'm just saying, like, just the concept fascinates me. So, yeah. All in all, I really love this book. I loved Maggie. There is a bit more God in this book, I will say, than there was in When the Day Comes. So, you know, it is Christian fiction. But honestly, I really think that anybody could read these and get into them, whether you believe in God or not, because they're just so compelling. I mean, it's time travel. they're literally time travel romances. And, well, I don't know, they're just fun. So, yeah, all in all, I'll still say that I enjoyed When the Day Comes more than this one, but I'm very interested in what happens next. The way they left the ending of this book makes me wonder what they're going to do. I hope we go further into the future in the next one. I mean, I want to see somebody go from the 1800s to, like, iPhones. And then come back talking about Safari. I don't know, it just all sounds so fun. Honestly, I am in the mood for time travel, and I don't know any other ones. So if anyone has any suggestions for good time travel, please leave them in the comments. Anyway, thanks to Katie from Paperbacks and Ponytails for pushing this so hard. And then book lover Amanda kept talking about it, so I read it, and yeah, anyway. That's all I got for this review. I'm going to do one more, and this one's a bit dark, so yeah, I'll talk about that later. But I wanted to do this gushing review first to psych myself up for the next one. Anyway, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you in my next video. Bye!
Speech on. Stop recording video.